Good morning, children. Welcome to economics class. See, in the last class, we just finished with what are the subdivisions of economics. And the next topic, what we are going to see today is what are the types of economics. So, economics as such, it is a growing subject with a growing horizon. It keeps on expanding. The concept of the subject keeps on expanding day by day. When we look into the types of economics, we can broadly classify economics into microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics means the study of economic actions from the perspective or from the individual units. See, for example, when you learn about an individual firm or when you learn about a household, how much money to be spent for this particular commodity, how much money to be spent on construction of a house, all these are pertaining to individuals. So it comes under microeconomics. On the other hand, it is just the opposite of it. Macroeconomics means it is concerned with the economy as a whole. It also observes, it is almost a reverse of it is a reverse, it is given obverse, is it? It is a reverse of microeconomics. It is concerned with the whole economy as such, the study of all the aggregates. That is, we learn about national income, we learn about population, we learn about production, and we learn about unemployment, inflation. All those are macroeconomic problems. So any problem which is dealing with all the major issues of an economy, it is studied under macroeconomics. Now, let us understand the very important 5-mark answer. It might be asked in 2 marks, 3 marks, as well as in 5 marks. That is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. What is microeconomics? It is a branch of economics. What does it deal with? It deals with all the decision making of whom? Of individuals. Okay, of individual agents. These agents can be producer, consumer, okay, can be a wholesaler, okay, he can be a manufacturer, anyone of it. It is related to the decision making of individuals. Likewise, macroeconomics, it is a branch of economics. What does it deal with? It deals with aggregates and averages of the entire economy as such. We are taking into consideration the whole economy itself. Now, what are the problems which are related to the whole country? The national income, the aggregate output, how much output is, how much production is being made, how much of rice production is there, how much is the employment generation, how much is the savings in the economy in the last year, how much is the investment that is being made. All those comes under macroeconomics. Second point of difference is microeconomics takes into account only small components of the whole economy. When you take microeconomics, see, for example, if you are an entrepreneur, you want to fix the price of your product. It is a very small part when we take the whole economy as such. When you take the country's problem, your problem of fixing the price for your product is a very, very small component. Let us see what is macroeconomics. It takes into consideration the economy of the country as a whole. Okay, so we are taking into consideration what? The whole country as such we are taking into consideration. The next is, it deals with the process of price determination in case of individual products and factors of production. See, what is the price that I have to fix for my product? How much employees should I employ? How much workers should I employ to complete this particular task? How much is the capital I should borrow? All those comes under microeconomics because it is a process of pricing. Okay, whereas in macroeconomics, it deals with general price in the economy. Okay, what is the inflation rate in the economy at present? That is studied in macroeconomics. Next is, it is known as price theory. It is price theory. It means the fixation of prices for the commodity. It is known as price theory, whereas it is known as income theory. Okay, what it is pertaining to the what is the national income of the country. Macroeconomics studies all information relating to the country only. Next is fifth point of differences. It is concerned with optimization goals of individual producers and consumers. Okay, see, I am concerned only about my individual aspect. What is my goal? How much is my target? How much is the profit that I should attain by producing this much commodity or by investing this much cost of production? This is studied under microeconomics. So it is concerned optimization. Optimization means what? Okay, getting with minimum cost, getting the maximum benefit is optimization goals. What are my optimization goals? Okay, with respect to the economy, the macroeconomics, it is concerned with optimization of what growth process of the entire economy. For the country to grow, what is the optimization process? Okay, if the production of if the employment level is at this particular stage, will the country have a growth scenario? So this is studied under macroeconomics. So 5 points of difference, very easy to learn, children. Okay, the next topic what we'll be learning is international economics, a part of economics. Okay, international economics. What is international economics? Okay, every country which is having link with the other country, having buying and selling, trading relationship with the other countries. Okay, the study of that, you call it as international economics. International economics is what? Okay, every country is having link with other countries. How? Through foreign investment and through foreign international trade. The study about this you learn under international economics. Next is public economics. Public economics is concerned with whatever the revenues or the incomes raised by the government, and what are the expenditures which are rendered by the government, okay, by the public authorities, and how our expenditures are adjusted with the incomes. All those are learnt under the heading of public economics, that is the income and expenditures spent by the government. And what are the topics that are covered under public economics? It covers public expenditure, public revenues, okay, public debts, financial administration, and federal finance. We will be learning about all these topics in depth. Next is developmental economics. Developmental economics is classified, basically countries are classified as developed countries, developing countries, and underdeveloped countries. How? Based on their per capita income, they are being classified. Now, developmental economics learns about, it has various criteria for measuring the development of a country. What are the criteria or measuring rods? The Human Development Index is used as a measuring rod. Okay, per capita income is used as a measuring rod. Okay, national income is GDP is used as a measuring rod. Happiness, gross happiness index is used as a measuring rod. So, the development economics deals with what? How the country, the features of, what are the features of a very developed nation? What are the problems that are faced by the developed nation or a country which is going towards development? Okay, what are the factors which determines which influences the development of a country, and which countries are taken as a model countries, and what are the strategies that we develop to attain growth and development? All those aspects are dealt under developmental economics. Next is health economics. Health economics is concerned with the health indicators. What are the health indicators? A good environment is a good health environment is a good indicator. Having good medical and research education means a good indicator. How much price control are we keeping on our drugs? What are our rural health missions which are followed in our country? And what is the neonatal care that is given for the newly born children? What is the maternity care given to the pregnant women? What is the child health care given to the children? Okay, and how much of budget money is being allocated in our budget towards our health? All those comes under health economics. Next is environmental economics. Environmental economics deals with the amount of stocks and reserve the country has. Okay, how much of natural resources are we depleting year after year? Okay, how much is our pollution rate? Okay, and what should be done to control the pollution? And like how we have measuring rods for developmental economics, we have got measuring rods to learn about good ecological system. How is the ecological balance being maintained? Okay, so environment discipline, what are the tools for following an environment discipline? All those are studied under environmental economics. Next is, what are the basic problems that every country faces? Not only India, many countries in the world, they face all the countries. See, when you see, the resources which are available in the world are not equally distributed. Okay, but our wants are unlimited. But the resources to satisfy these wants are very, very limited only. So what are we forced to do? See, my desires are unlimited, but my resource to satisfy these desires are very, very limited. Okay, so what should I do? Either I should try to increase my resources or restrict my wants. Okay, but these are the basic problems which are faced by almost all the countries. So what is the basic economic problem? Our wants, desires are unlimited. The resources are very scarce in nature. They are not available freely. We have to pay a huge price for our resources. Next is, in such a situation, we have to choose between our wants. Which want I should satisfy first? Which want I have to forego? Okay, which want I can postpone to the next time? All those are the basic problems that are faced by a country. Now, the next topic is how much to produce. Every country should decide, okay, what commodity it has to produce, okay, and how much of those commodities or service it has to produce. Okay, a very, very crucial decision every country has to take. It is an important 3-mark answer. What are the crucial decisions taken by every economy? Every crucial means very important. Every economy should decide few things. Okay, let us understand what are the crucial decisions which are taken by every country. First point is whether to produce more food, clothing and housing, or to have more luxury goods. See, every country we have limited resources only. With this limited resources, should our country produce more of good, more of clothes and housing, or should the scarce resources be utilized for producing luxury commodities? Luxury commodities means what? That which is not necessary for us, but it is which is used by us to show our social status in the society. Such commodities are called as luxury goods. So the society only, the government only should decide, okay, whether to produce more food, clothing and housing, okay, or they have to produce more goods, luxury goods. Next is the economy. The government has to decide whether to have more agricultural goods or to have industrial goods and services. See, we have very limited resources. With these limited resources, should I produce more of agricultural goods? Because my population, see, in a country like India, population is high only. So what are we to do? We need to produce more agricultural goods. Now at the same time, we are growing also. Technologically, we are growing also. So we have to allocate for the scarce resources for industrial goods also. So how much allocation should be made for production of agricultural goods and for the production of industrial goods, or which should we produce more and which we should produce less? Next is whether to use more resources in education and health or to use more resources in military services. See, the country has to decide how much money should be spent on education of their population and for the health of the population, and whether more money should be spent on military support, military services. See, in a country where there is always threat from the enemies, okay, where the people are enjoying a good health service and good education is already there, but they have got good amount of threat from their neighboring countries. In such a situation, what will the country do? The country will allocate the scarce resources for strengthening their military only. Okay, next is whether to have more consumption goods or whether to have investment goods. Say, for where the population is very high, the country should think of producing only more consumer goods. Consumer goods are what? The goods which are directly consumed by the people without undergoing any production process. Investment goods are what? They are called as capital goods. Investment goods are goods which are used to produce consumer goods, that is plant and machinery. Next is whether the country should decide whether it has to spend more on basic education or higher education. See, money is to be spent for education is true, but the country has to decide whether more money should be spent for basic education, that is from 1 to 5 we have to spend more money, or money should be spent for for college education. So this also has to be decided by the economy. Let us have a small recap. First thing is whether to produce more food, clothing, shelter, or to produce more luxury. Next is whether to have more agricultural goods or industrial goods. The third one is whether the resources should be used for production of education and health, or it should be used for strengthening the military. The fourth one is whether we need to produce more consumer goods or we need to produce investment goods, that is capital goods. The last one is whether we need to spend more for primary education or basic education, or we should spend more for higher education. Now, these problems are there. So, what are the basic problems? What to produce is a basic problem. How much I need to produce is a basic problem. Next is for whom I should produce is a basic problem. Now, how are we going to address these problems? Every country will address these problems in their own way. Okay, they will address these problems in their own way. How to produce? Whether we need to use labor intensive technology or capital intensive technology. See, for a country like, for example, China, let us take China. They are labor intensive because there are more population. They are technically also very intensive because they have got good technology. Capital is there, technology is also there. So they have to decide whether intensive means using more of a thing is called intensive, whether they have to use capital intensive goods or whether they have to use labor intensive technology to produce the goods. Capital intensive means what? Using more of labor and less of technology. Labor intensive means what? Using more of labor and less of capital. Whereas capital intensive means using more of capital and less of labor. Next is for whom to produce. See, we have decided to produce goods. Now, I have to decide, the country has to decide, these goods should be produced for the poor people or for the rich people, or it should be distributed among different sections of the society. Okay, so how much should be produced or for whom these goods have to be produced should be decided. The next topic is another important topic called as production possibility curve. We'll be learning one more very important 5-mark answer, production possibility curve. See, so far we saw what are the problems which are existing in a society. That is, our wants are huge, but our resources are very, very less. Now the problem is, see, when we have something very, very less in number, now what I have to do? I have to choose between whether if I have only this much amount of money. Now I have to choose whether my money should be spent on restaurant, or I should spend on education, or I should spend on hospital expenses. Like this, the country also, the economy also should choose between relatively scarce commodity, because of what? The productive resources in the society are very, very limited. What is production possibility curve? It shows a menu of choice. Okay, what does it show? It shows a menu of choice along which a society can choose to substitute one good for another. Now the country has to decide whether I can produce this. If I am not producing this amount, I can substitute it in some other place. Okay, assuming the state of technology is constant. Okay, and the resources are remaining constant. Whenever we go with any law, okay, we go with certain assumptions, or understanding any concept, we go with certain assumptions of the concept. Those assumptions we learn under the heading of are available for this production possibility curve also. What are those assumptions? The time period does not change. Okay, the time period does not change. Okay, it remains the same throughout the curve. Okay, throughout the production possibility curve, the time period is same. Technology of production is also fixed. There is no change in methods of production. Next is, always there is full employment in the society. All the people in the economy are employed, and we have taken into consideration only two goods for understanding. So we are producing how many commodities? Only two commodities are taken into illustration for our understanding. It is, I think many a times I've told you, because we have got only x-axis and y-axis, so it is easy for us to illustrate when we take only two commodities, for example. The next is, the resource of production are fully mobile. I can use a resource of production either for producing commodity A or for producing commodity B. Okay, see, for example, there are two commodities which are to be produced. In our example, it is cars and food. Okay, I can move the factors of production for the production of cars or for the production of food also. So the factors of production are given in quantity and quality. It is already very clearly defined. This is the quantity of factors of production available, and this is the quality of the factors of production available. Next is this law operates on the law of diminishing returns, which means as you employ more and more and more of factors, the returns that are produced from the factors will start diminishing. Okay. Next is, I shall teach you this possibility, a production possibility with the help of this diagram, a very, very simple diagram. Okay, production, so you could see three columns. The first column tells us production possibilities, from 1 to 6 possibilities are there. Second, the column tells us the quantity of food production in tons, how much quantity of food is being produced. The third says how much number of cars are being produced. Now, with possibility 1, okay, with possibility 1, I am able to produce 25 cars, but I am not able to produce any food. If my country is choosing possibility 1, how much we are able to produce food? We are not producing any food, but we are able to produce 25 cars. Like that possibility 2, when you see, we are able to produce with the available resources. If we are producing 100 tons of food, means we are able to produce only 23 units of cars. Okay, 100 units of food means we are able to produce not 25, we are able to produce only 23, because the remaining two, the resource which are provided for 2 units of cars, is being utilized for the production of food grains here. Third possibility, if the production of food is increasing, automatically the production of cars are decreasing. Okay, how is it? It is decreasing. When one is increasing, the other is decreasing. Whenever there, if two variables move in the opposite side, when one is increasing, the other is decreasing, means we can say that there is inverse relationship. Whenever there is inverse relationship between two variables, the curve will always be a downward sloping curve only. It will not move upwards. It will be a downward sloping curve. Now just look at the possibility 6. With the available resources, we are not producing any cars, but rather we are producing only food commodities we are producing. See, now it is the decision of the country to decide which possibility I need to choose. See, for a country where technology is very well developed, okay, population is very less, they feel that they can buy the food from outside, but technologically they are very sound. No other country in the world is producing the cars that are being produced by this particular country A. Now, in such a situation, country A will choose possibility 1, because since no country in the world is producing such a type of car, the countries will utilize all the resources in producing the cars and selling it to the other countries, whereas food is being produced by many countries. So food will be away, even if they are going to buy when they are going to import food from other countries, it will work out only economical. So what will they do? They will they will use all the resources for production of cars, and they will import rice from other countries, food from other countries. Now again, the decision which one to choose depends upon economy to economy. Now let us look into the graph here. See, the graph is this graph shows the production possibility curve. Okay, this on the x-axis we have taken food production, in the y-axis we have taken the cars production. Now when the number of cars P1 at point P1, production possibility P1, it means 0 food and 25 cars. At possibility P2, it means 100 food and 23 cars. At possibility P3, it means 200 food and 20 cars. Look at possibility P6, which means all the resources are utilized only for production of food, but 0 cars. Okay, so any point on the production possibility curve, it means same amount of resources are being utilized. Okay, how much? The resource utilized are same amount of resource are being utilized at any point on the production possibility curve. Now look at the point which is outside to the right side of production possibility curve, that is P, which means any point beyond the production possibility curve, it means the country does not have that much amount of resources to produce that much combination of commodities. Okay, the resources are not available to the level of at point P where it will be producing more units of food and more units of cars. See, when you have to produce more units of food, you have to reduce the production of cars. When you want to produce more cars, you have to reduce the production of food here. But any point beyond the production possibility curve, it means the resources are not adequately available. It is not possible to be produced. But any point below the production possibility curve, what does it mean? That is P7. It means the resources are not fully utilized. Okay, it means any point at P7, it means it should be 12 cars and 250 food. It means still there are more amount of resources which are being unutilized by the economy. It means still the production capacity could be increased further. That is what it means. Now again, when can this shift happen? When can there be a shift in the production possibility curve from AE to A1 E1? It can happen at two situations. One is when the supply of the resources increases, when there is a change in the supply of resources, when there is a change in production of energy. We have started inventing, we have found out that we have started producing more of energy using solar energy means we have started producing more electricity using solar energy means automatically our resource will increase. So the AE curve will shift to A1 E1 curve. Okay, there is one more possibility of the curve getting shifted. The other possibility is when there is change in the production technology, when we are able to produce more goods by changing the technology of production. In such a situation also the production possibility curve could shift to the right hand side. So underline this in your textbook. It is quite an important topic. Okay, shift of production possibility curve. It occurs under two situations: change in the supply of productive resources and change in the state of technology. Now, what are the uses of production possibility curve? The first thing is a problem of choice. Every country has got the problem of choice because I need to choose, because I have got very limited amount of money. So I have to choose and then only spend. So the problem of choice is available for all the countries. By learning the production possibility curve, it gives a solution to choose which is where the money has to be spent, whether in the higher income group or to the lower income group, or whether money should be spent for strengthening the military, or money should be spent for producing more of food grains. So this will give us an idea where the resources should be allocated. Next is notion of scarcity. Okay, it gives us an idea. See, this amount of this particular commodity is scarce in nature. Okay, I am able to understand with this PPC. So it helps us to use a better technology, and the scarce resources are being utilized in a very proper. See, I am giving it is giving me an alert. Your resources are getting scarce now, so judiciously utilize this. So it gives us a notion of the scarcity. Next is solution to central problems. I told you what are the central problems faced by any economy: what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. These three basic problems are there in all countries of the world. Okay, by learning this production possibility curve, it gives us a solution for how much to produce, for whom this commodity should be produced, okay, and what commodity should be produced. So it gives us a solution for what are the commodities that should be produced, what should not be produced, and how much of the commodity should be produced, okay, whether more food or less food, okay, more cars or less cars, and for whom these commodities should be produced, whether it should be produced for the poor people or it should be produced for the rich people. Okay, so it gives solution for the basic problems in an economy. With this, we are finishing the first chapter. Okay, and after this probably from the first week of October, we will be having our monthly test. Okay, and I shall let you know the portions for the monthly test. For today's homework, I want you to write question number 29 and question number 38. Okay, explain the basic problems of economy with the help of production possibility curve. And to question number 29, what are the crucial decisions involved in what to produce? Okay, these two questions are your homework. That is all for today's class, children. Have a good day.